Disney Lorcana has just wrapped up its first ever World Championship event, and guys, there is so much information to break down. From these crazy gameplays to these brand new formats, I'm excited for the next season of Disney Lorcana Challenges. So let's review this recap, go through some updates, and really see what Lorcana is cooking up in 2026.
In the world of TCG, take your stand with 7 cards in hand.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, my Illumineers. Lorcana has just wrapped up Season 1 and had its first ever World Championship event. And guys, like I mentioned, there is so much information we have to break down. A lot of announcements announced over the weekend, a lot of cool formats, and especially what's coming up in Season 2 with the newer dates for Lorcana Challenges, newer events, and at the same time, we're really bringing in the world to Lorcana. I think we announced events in Brazil, in Japan, in China. So next year and in 2027 is really going to be a big year for Lorcana as they continue to keep expanding and hoping getting to the top, like Pokemon, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh, and even Magic. So let's go ahead and let's break down some of the recap that happened this weekend and a lot of the information that was shared with us. So I'm here right now on the first website, which is the Disney Lorcana's official website. We're going to scroll down here to who will be our next champion. Of course, we had DKP take home the World Championship. You know, he's originally from Germany, one of the best players I've seen, in recent years. And I mean, he is phenomenal. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch DKP play in the European Championships and then in the World Championship, I mean, the way he flows with his different, deck builds, the way he strategizes, I mean, he is just a phenomenal player. And that's not taking away credit from any of the other Disney Lorcana participants. I mean, we definitely had a lot of good players over the weekend, but I mean, DKP, just watching him in that final match, against Edmund Chu, was just insane. I mean, a great matchup, guys. If you guys really want to be on the edge of your seats, definitely check out that match. So we have some quotes from DKP. You know, he obviously really enjoyed his time in Walt Disney World and really enjoyed his time in the first season of Lorcana and can't wait to come back in Season 2. So we have our first ever, I wouldn't say first ever, but our announcements for next year that of the Disney Lorcana, which are going to happen in the next 12 to 6 months. So a couple of changes up, especially for the European and the North American. European, we have, starting in October and then to March, June, and then wrapping up in September for their European Championship. So a little different. I think they switched up some of the locations, but one thing I did want to mention is the North American. So Season 1, we had about 5 to 6 Lorcana challenges. Here we only have 4. Very unique and interesting take from Ravensburger. Now, I have my personal opinions about this update here. One, I think having just 4 locations, or at least not 4 locations, 4 Disney Lorcana challenges for the next season is very risky and very, very interesting for a couple of reasons. One, we have a big following. There's a big community around Disney Lorcana, and a lot of people love flocking to these events. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the events were sold out. So you're talking about 5 to 6 events in the North America that were sold out. Now that you have only 4 events, I mean, being that the cap was 2,000 participants or attendees, I wonder how they're going to strategize for these 4 events. Are they going to make them bigger? Are they going to just keep it at 2,000? I think it will be in their best interest to make the participants bigger. But is the format going to change? Which they did announce. I believe it's going to be an all weekend in. So you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday now. So before, if you went to any of the challenges in Season 1, pretty much you checked in on Friday, check out the venue. Saturdays when they started the event, and then Sundays where they wrapped up with your top 16, your top 8, then your top 4. So I think they're really starting everything on Friday, Saturday, and then wrapping it up on Sunday. Very interesting. It's a really all weekend thing. And if you guys play Lorcana, paying for hours at a time can be very draining. So really interesting to see how they're going to take this. I'm looking to attend probably the Richmond, Virginia. It's closer to where I am. So in January, and it's a little bit further out, so it gives me time to plan. But tickets do go on sale pretty soon. So, hopefully I can cross my fingers they get to the event too. But let me know down in the comments, guys, what's your take on Lorcana or Ravensburger, excuse me, really only putting a select few challenges. And the locations are interesting as well because they're not in central US, they're not on the west or the east coast. They're really like in that northeast, close to the central part, of the US. So it very interesting take because people that are on the west coast are going to have to fly over, and it's going to take a longer time to get here. And then obviously the east coast is going to benefit because they're closer to us. So I'm really, I really want to know what their strategy was to pick like Milwaukee, Virginia, Indianapolis, which is Indiana, and then wrapping up. Which actually, excuse me, I said 4. Let's circle back. Actually, we have only 3 events. The championship event is going to be our 4th event taking place next August in 2026. So having only 3 events, that's going to be really pushing it. So very interesting move from Ravensburger. I don't necessarily agree with it because I feel like I think because they're trying to grow their community, and the community is really growing. It's gaining popularity. I would think they would have multiple different events, like they did in season 1. Even if you didn't want to do 6 to 7 events, maybe 5 events with the championship, or maybe 4 with the championship, but only having 3 events and then only locating them in the almost central part of America, it's very interesting on my take, at least in my opinion. But I'm excited for the next season. I can't wait to see what they're gonna do, or how these challenges are gonna play out. I know season 1 is the first time them ever launching it, so I'm looking. When I'm hoping to attend, that they're going to be a little bit more well-structured events. And then Ravensburger announcing Japan, like I mentioned, Japan, China, Australia, and other territories. So really growing the reach of Disney Lorcana, gaining in popularity. Again, I can see Lorcana being here for the long haul. I see Lorcana really growing into one of those top TCGs like Pokemon, Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's here to stay, and anybody who's doubted it, I think you might want to take your word back because it's definitely upcoming. And then you have some other side events for North America, and then upcoming European events. So really interesting information, guys. This is found on the Disney Lorcana's main website if you wanted to get more information on this. Again, super helpful and really giving you an idea of what's the next steps for Disney Lorcana. But if you guys are still here, if you guys love the content, don't forget to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Let me know down below. Are you guys excited for the next phase of Lorcana? Are you guys gonna attend some of the events, or are you guys just gonna, do you guys like playing friendly so you're not really competitive? Again, I love Lorcana, one of my favorite TCGs in recent years, along with some of the other ones. So I talk about it all the time. So I hope you guys are enjoying the content. But again, don't forget to subscribe down below so we can keep making some contents for you guys. So let's move on to our next page right here. Really good article from Collector Club. They gave us like a whole wrap-up of Disney Lorcana and the World Championship that happened over the past last couple of weekends ago. So we're going to go through this. There are some deck lists I'm going to go through as well halfway through this video, just so we can look at some really interesting decks that will play with some of the top players. So first things first, let's talk about the format. Format was super interesting because if you've been watching Disney Lorcana since the first ever event, excuse me, I said first twice, the events, and then all the way up into the North America and the European champion, it was always Swiss, best of 2, and then I think best of 3. Now they're switching to that format, which is best of 3, which they did announce on stream that they're switching to that format to test it out, but Swiss is not going away. It's just going to be probably put on pause. They're going to try out, that different format of best of 3 and then get some feedback. And they really want to hear the feedback, which is great from Ravensburger to be that transparent, because some competitors and some, people that love to play like Swiss, some like best of 3. So it all depends, like, if you guys are newer to TCGs, if you're, been playing TCGs for quite some time, you guys might like different formats. You might like Swiss, you might like best of 3. So I think it benefits everybody. So I'm excited to see how they go about that. But one thing we have to talk about was the triple deck and then the super sealed. So the triple deck was very interesting, and I think they did this for a reason, and I agree with it. If you are a top Lorcana competitor, you should be able to master all 6 glimmers, right? You should be able to navigate each deck build with different strategies and being able to play it obviously very well. So you can't, and that's why I'm saying you can't be a top competitor. You can't be top 4, top 8 in the world and only learn how to play with red, blue, or, or amethyst emerald or amber steel, right? We all have our favorite decks, but the triple deck format really showcased that they have mastered all the different types of glimmers, and regardless of what color combination they are using, they're always going to, strategize and put their best mindset into winning that game or the rounds. So interesting, take on it, and I really love to watch that gameplay. I think all of us really enjoyed that because it was newer. It was a newer format with super sealed and triple deck. So interesting to see how it, really started out. Super sealed was also really interesting as well because it was from all the different chapters. Or I think it was only chapter 1 through 4, chapter 1 through 6, whatever the boxes were, and then you had to build your deck based off that, which was, a little harder because the competitors only had so much time to build and so much time to strategize. So I could see how it could be very, in the moment, could be very, I was gonna say not difficult, but like, challenging. I know I said challenge already, but challenging just because, you have to really think about your strategy right there. And then you only have, and you're timed, you can't play test, right? You can't strategize. You can't, think about what you're going to do. Now, they did announce the formats prior to the World Championship on what they were going to play. So I don't know how much information was shared with the competitors, but I would think they were doing some, obviously play testing and just really figuring out if they did get certain amount of cards, or when they do the triple deck, what's going to be best in for them. So they really put their, their time and effort, and you can really see who did it. At the World Championship on just play testing different decks, different formats, it really hats off to them. So we are scrolling down here. This is just a breakdown of the events on their streaming, and then you had the prizes. Prizes were really cool though. They did bring back obviously, the Cinderella Stouthearted, the Rapunzel, and then introduced the Cusco, the Baymax, and then a whole new world, which is newer prizing for this for the World Championship. But they had the new world playmat. They had the new world card sleeves, which was interesting. I love that whole new world. Kind of stinks because I think they announced that it's not coming back in reprints for Fable. So a whole new world is pretty much getting retired, at least for the time being, unless it gets reprinted in another set rotation. But I think the promo is really nice, really cool artwork on it, and that's one thing. If you guys are newer to Lorcana, the artwork and the foils that are on these cards, I think really bring out the TCG itself, and it really gives homage, right? If I'm pronouncing that right, or homage, to Disney itself, because Disney is all about the animation, the artwork, the storytelling. So when you see these Lorcana cards with your favorite Disney characters, you can see the story in the pictures, you can see the story in the artwork. And that's what I just love about Disney, is that they're very particular and they're very focused on how they're designing their cards and how they continue to keep changing them. Because I know we had the Lilo was the first ever alternate artwork card, and now you have these promos that are alternate artwork. So they're really taking their time to really ensure that if you're gonna put out a Disney character on a card, it's going to really highlight who that character is and really give credit to the character that was built in Disney, and obviously in our childhood and then in the movies as well. So those are all the different prizes. If you had different wins, obviously you had your golden Mickey, which I really like the golden Mickey. I really hope that they, and this was something I mentioned with Union Arena. Union Arena uses almost the same artwork, just with different foil background and different style backgrounds. I just wish they use the, you know, Mickey, Brave Little Tailor in maybe different artworks with the cards. You know, I understand they were all serialized, and I'm hoping, you know, maybe not next season, maybe season 3 of Disney Lorcana, that they change the artwork. They could keep it Mickey and maybe give him a different design. However, just because, like, even though those are serialized foil cards, which are really nice, I just think that if you're going to go all out for a world championship, you're going to go all out for the Disney Lorcana challenges, just, I'll say, make the distinct difference, you know, like, yes, it's serialized number 1, you know, number 2, number 3, but if you're going to do Disney Lorcana challenges and then have the world championship, maybe change up the art style, you know. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Guys, if you agree with me, let me know down in the comments below if maybe they should change up the artwork, especially when they're giving out these top prizes. You know, again, if you're getting the same card from, you know, some of the challenges, and then you world champion, the only difference is the number. There's really no other difference. So that's just me. I would think that they change it up, but hey, I'm just a regular player, guys. I'm just a regular player. So, okay. So Collector's Cup done a really good job of just a breakdown of the format, you know, obviously the streaming. Let's take a look at, you know, it's the whole new world promo card. So a lot of us really love this promo card, and I want to get my hands on it, and I wish that the World Championship event was public and did side events. I get it. They announced that they wanted the first ever World Championship to be like a VIP experience for the participants. I get it. You know, they put the time and effort and deserve that VIP feeling. But I feel like they missed out on an opportunity not having side events and building a bigger community around it. Like, they could have really, like, done events around Epcot at the different pavilions literally around the world. But they did talk about in the future looking to have side events or doing other events around World Champion, so everybody can kind of be part of the magic, be part of the event. But one thing that really crossed my mind was obtaining this whole new world promo card. So they did announce that there's something called Infinity Weekend that's going to happen at the end of 2025, so December 12th to the 14th, so only 2 days. It's going to happen at a lot of local game shops, and it's going to have the brand new Infinity Core constructed format, and all you have to do is participate. That's really all it is, and it's going to really, you know, really get us thinking and feeling about this new Infinity Core constructed, because they did mention that it could be an official side event, or they're also working on, but they also working on maybe bringing it into the new format of the challenges. I'm not too sure. They haven't gave a lot of information, but Infinity Core constructed is where you can use all the cards from any of the chapters, regardless if they're banned or not. And it reminds me of like Super Sealed. So I don't know if Infinity Core Constructed is still only 2 glimmers, or is it like Super Sealed? I would think it's only still 2 glimmers, because Super Sealed, it's its own thing. But Infinity Core Constructed, you're going to be able to use any cards, and all you have to do is participate. Literally, they're going to have Swiss rounds. They're going to have their top cuts, of course. It's going to be treated as like a regular, you know, local set championships, a regular tournament. But all you have to do is just participate, and you get the whole new world. Now, I don't know if they're going to do like a foil promo for it or just a regular promo. I'm not too sure, but I'm excited to see how the format's going to be at the end of the year and really test out Infinity Core Constructed. I haven't played any of it. I only done so much research, but I'm excited to see how that really plays out, and if people really like it, because if they like it, they're going to bring it to the side events. They might make it part of the challenge event, you know, like they did Triple Deck or they did Super Sealed. So, hey, you never know. So let's go over, and then we're going to go to the last part of these articles before we move over to our deck list, which is DKB's win in his first ever Disney Lorcana Championship. I really want to highlight this because it talks about the matches he's had with Edmund Chu and really what was played out. So I want to just go ahead and dive right into the games that they had against each other. So the first games they had was Ed's Amethyst Emerald versus DKP's Ruby Sapphire. If you guys know Ruby Sapphire, it's an item deck, right? It's based off building, obviously building off those items, playing into the Tamatoas, really getting that ink all the way up so we can start playing these heavier cards. But the thing with red Sapphire is that it could take some time to ramp up. Now, if you guys are new to Lorcana, ramping means just getting more ink into your inkwell per turn rather than just the regular ink once per turn. Now, you could really get there really quickly, but if you don't hit the cards you need to and you really brick your hand, then you could be kind of getting stuck where then Emerald Amethyst can really take it with, if they're doing, they're doing aggros, they're doing bouncing, stuff like that. So, I mean, Ed did take the first one with his Diablos, really, getting to that 11 lore, and then Edmund, just closing it out with 0 to 17, just taking that first game. So then, if you guys are not familiar with triple deck, after you use your first deck, you will bench that deck and then use another deck. And then your opponent who did not take the round can either choose to stick with their deck that they're using or move to another deck. So DKP decided to stick with Red Sapphire, so he did not move from it, and Edmund moved to his Amber Steel, which a lot of us know it as Steel Song. But I think this wasn't as a traditional Steel Song. I think it was more of like an aggro or a tempo deck. But DKP really, taking home the second game just because of the items that he played with the Mauis and really just pulling away from Edmund, which if you don't watch out for Red Blue, I'm telling you right now, it's gonna win the game. Like a lot of people underestimated Blue Sapphire probably in the beginning because everybody was playing Red Amethyst or Ruby Amethyst, but now Ruby Sapphire is one of the top, if not the top, at least for now until some of the other sets come out. And then in game 3, you had DKB using his Amethyst Steel, which is a really good deck against the Amber Steel, and Edmund Chu really taking a go with his aggro. If you ever played against or played Amber Steel, you have those piglets, you have those daisies, very crucial to the beginning of the game, and really taking home. You have the Donald Duck, which is the bodyguard and gets the 1+ lore to anybody that's on the field. So if you play literally that turn with those hands, with Daisy, with Piglet, with Donald, you can really run away with the game. And I've gotten to a point where I played Amber Steel where by turn 5, they're already at 16, 17. There's no reason, we got to move to round 2. We got to go to game 2 because there's no way of stopping them. You just can't. You have to be able to just take it away. And that's exactly what Ed did with game 3. And then when it came to game 4, you had DKB's Amber Emerald, which is another good one. A lot of people like to call it Chinadogs. I don't think this build is really built around Chinabog. It's really more of a hyper aggro from what we saw DKK playing with it. But then Ed playing that Ruby Sapphire, which I don't think was a really good play for him to go to Red Sapphire, which actually, no, I think he did have to go to it. Excuse me if I'm wrong, because he played his Emerald, Emerald Amethyst, he played his Steel Song. This was his last deck, so the other decks were benched. So he had to play this. DKP moving to his Amber Emerald, which was just a hyper aggro, and he knew that it was going to take a couple of turns for Edmund to really build up his ramp for a Red Sapphire. So DKP really taking that win from him with 15-0, absolutely insane. And then this was an interesting play by Ed and DKP. So Ed decided to stay with his Ruby Sapphire, and then DKB moving to his Amethyst Steel, which can be treated as a tempo, but also can be treated as an aggro, just because you can bounce a lot of the different cards with the goats, the goats gaining lore, the Madam Mins or the Madam Foxes, bouncing it back. You can play Gathering Knowledge. You can play some, the genies. Really, a really interesting, strategic move from Edmund. I would thought he would have went back to Emerald Amethyst or at least Amber Steel. I think he could have at least went tempo or aggro. That's in my opinion. But it was not Edmund's day, and DKP taking it with the goats and really closing out the game with his win. So really great job to DKP on that final game and the final rounds. really, you could see in his face that he was just wanted to take him. He was just ready to be done with the weekend. You know, a lot of these players playing for a couple hours on end can take a lot out of you. So really, really interesting play, but really great job, DKP. I can't wait to see how he does in season 2. And I can't wait for Edmund to come back. I mean, he was a really phenomenal player when he took home the North American Championship, and then him really topping in second for this Lorcana for the World Championship. So I can't wait till he comes back and see what he surprises everybody with. So that was everything. Those are all the updates. Again, if you guys are still hanging in with us, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Again, we go through a lot of different TCGs like Lorcana, Pokemon, Union Arena, and we even looking at some of the other sets for like Magic, you know, and some other TCGs as well. So if you guys are still here, we're going to go and switch over to some of the deck lists just so we can take a look at some of those interesting plays. All right, so let's take a look at Edmund Chu's Red Sapphire. So this was an interesting, again, I already mentioned, interesting take to go back to Ruby Sapphire in those final rounds. I would think he would have moved more to either Amber Steel for aggro or to Amethyst Emerald. But hey, that's just me. Maybe he had a different mindset on it, because Ruby Sapphire, if you just cannot get it to click right in the beginning, you could be fighting just to get your cards out, because it's all about items and ramping. And if you're just not pulling what you need to, if you're not playing it at the right time the right time you need to, then you are going to be bricking your hand. You're going to be stuck. And by somebody who's playing aggro, by turn 5 or 6, they're already winning the game. But this is a traditional, from what I'm seeing here, is a traditional Red Sapphire deck. I mean, you have the CISOs, you have the Tipos. Really newer card to this type here is the Scrooge McDuck, the Tamatoas, and then the Bell. The Bell actually being one of the better cards in Ruby Sapphire, just because you can get her out by turn 1 or even turn 2, depending on what you guys pulled. So what I love also about this, and you can see like some of the older cards still having some kind of meta, having some kind of purpose in these newer builds, like the Tipo. The Tipo's a couple of sets older, or a couple of chapters older. Sorry, a couple of chapters older. And then you have the one-drop Sisu, which obviously you want it as a target to go into the bigger Sisu, just because with the bigger Sisu, you can really, you know, close out the game. I mean, especially if you're running into like hyper aggro, if you can get this out, I mean, you're taking everything out on the board. And then you have those lucky dimes. So if you can build up your items with the Tamatoas, you can really, you know, you can go from 0 to almost 18 lore in maybe 2 turns just by building up these items. So I really like this build. It's one of the more traditional builds. If you've seen Ruby Sapphire from the beginning of its inception, when you first started seeing it in the challenges, it still tends to stay the same with a lot of the items. Just, I think, with the introduction of the newer Tamatoa, the Scrooge McDuck, and then the Bell, I think those really making it that strong in the meta. All right, so let's go to our next, which would be Mo Shamlin. Mo Shamlin, I really loved how he played this weekend. I mean, he did absolutely phenomenal, and I really loved his Amethyst deck. I mean, this is starting to be more traditional from what I've seen. This really highlights, you know, discard, aggro, and really the main components is your Diablos. Anybody who knows me, I love the Diablos. I love discarding, so this really fits well with me. And with Pull the Lever and Wrong Lever coming out, it's just adding more of that tempo to this deck. I can't say any more about this deck than I love it, and I can't wait to see its continued evolution and evolution throughout the next couple of sets, because traditional discard was with Emerald Steel, with the Buckies, and, you know, obviously with the Bucky errata, you know, it really lost its momentum and everything until Zan really brought it back in Las Vegas, and then we started to see more gameplay of it. But so one of my buddies at my locals said something to me, and it definitely sat well with me, and I'm kind of seeing it here in front of us, in that the future of discard is going to be Amethyst Emerald. At the time, it wasn't. It was Emerald Steel, and he already saw it coming. And we're now seeing it here at the World Championship, really being an idea discard. very good tempo, and you know, it's not a traditional aggro, but you're really focusing on discarding and really drawing cards with off the Diablos, with the friends on the other side, and then with your Prince Johns with the discard and drawing the cards. This is a really phenomenal deck. And guys, if you want to, you know, get into Lorcana and you just don't know what deck to go with, I'm telling you right now, if you like pulling all the cards out of your opponent's hands and not giving them anything to play with, this is the deck to do it. So let's go to our next deck list, which is Zach Bibbins. I almost said Zan. Zach Bibbins. I wanted to highlight this deck. I know, you know, he had other different decks. I really was interested to see this in the World Championship because I'm a big Emerald and Sapphire player as well. I love this deck. I have a different build from it. This is more of like an item, interesting build deck, but I build it for more discard because, you know, I love discard. And I think this could also, you know, work as a discard in the future. I just think right now it's inconsistent, and right now there's still some maybe working parts on it. It doesn't stick right now. But Zach really working this, and I was really interested to see him picking this kind of, you know, combination with the items. You know, traditional items you see is with Ruby Sapphire, but with Sapphire Green, I mean, very interesting, and it was played very well. I think one of the rounds he didn't take it because he just couldn't get off what he needed to, but this was a very interesting deck, and I hope to see it in the next couple of sets. I hope to see it grow. I hope it solidifies among the meta like Amber Steel, Ruby Amethyst, you know, just because those two decks have always been around since the beginning, and they really put their place in the top meta decks. And now Ruby Sapphire only being really newer in the last couple months, 6 to 7 months, it's starting to be now topping Amber Steel, Ruby Amethyst, you know. So I hope one of these days that Sapphire Emerald is here to stay, and it's really one of the tougher decks out there. And then the last deck I wanted to highlight was DKP's Amethyst Steel. I think this deck was one of the most played decks of the weekend, just because I think it's a great combination. And at the same time, what I really love about this deck, and I did not see this coming, was the Yen Sid. The Yen Sid, when that card came out, I have the enchanted version. Actually, I have the enchanted version right here, actually. And when his legendary came out, I really liked his effect where he gains, you know, 2 lore for, I think, for 2 brooms he has in play. But I was really interested to see him in this build. I mean, what I like about it, I like to call it like sleeper cards, because you don't ever think about them and you sleep on them. And then when they get put into really good tempo decks, that they just come out and start taking the game away from them, and you're like, what's going on? I need a new strategy. So, you know, Amethyst Steel really being another, you know, force to be reckoned with in the meta right now when it comes to Amethyst Steel. Not Amethyst Steel, when it comes to like the more powerful decks, like, you know, Ruby Sapphire, Amber Steel, Ruby Amethyst. But I really like this build, and I see a lot of individuals going back to Amethyst Steel. Some people that I know who have played Lorcana since the beginning are returning back to this combination just because of some of the newer cards and just what you can get off with it. I just think it has a good flow, good tempo. I would say you could treat it as aggro, but I don't feel this is as like a true aggro. But when DKP was playing it, I mean, he had a good combination to just start really taking away from Edmund Chu. And to be honest with you, I really think that this deck is here to stay, and I can't wait to see how it continues to grow with some of the other ones. Well, that's going to wrap up today's video, guys. But let me know down in the comments below, did you guys enjoy the World Championship event as much as I did? Did you see some of the decks that you play with being played by some of these competitors? And are you looking to change up your deck or stick with what you know right now? I know I am. I really love that Emerald Amethyst, and I'm going to keep playing it until maybe something different comes out. But if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out this video right here. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.